that you're an entrepreneur.
Correct.
What?
Try to be. The nesting of this new company is being backed by a man who's involved with LinkedIn, Lycos, very successful businessman. So he'll be handling that side of it, thank God. Because when you're trying to book talent and write the storylines and everything else, again, there's only so many hours in the day, and the eventual plan for this new company is going to be 22 to 35 hours per month of content, which is probably at least double what Vince is doing right now or has done at his peak. So it's going to necessitate a hell of a lot of writers, very creative people, loyal talent. And to do that, this businessman, who we can't reveal yet, but this businessman is planning on the healthcare, the pension plans, the 401ks, revenue streaming, that should be the fish hook with the worm on it out there, the talent. With all due respect to anybody out there, anybody that's been in this business knows it takes a long time to really get a wrap around it, to learn the system and how it works and how to develop a storyline and lay it out. It's very condescending to guys like me that have been in the wrestling for 35 years to have somebody that's never been in it say, you're doing it wrong, we should do it this way. There was so much going on, but when we had, at one point, New Jack, two of the partners had given New Jack a considerable advance on his pay and had given him, I think, 50 DVDs to sell at the shows, and even bought his medication for him 1 month or something. Now those were things that to me should have been taken to the committee of five to say, well, I vote for it, I vote against it, whatever. But these two partners did it on their own, and now the five partners are figuring out how to cover that. I couldn't get word, I couldn't speak. It wouldn't come out. And she started at the top. She said, is it Johnny? And I shook my head no. And she said, is it Valerie? And I shook my head. And it was like every bone in her body disappeared. She just collapsed like a bowl full of jelly.
She knew? Or you said she?
When I shook my head, yes. When she went down the list, she started at the oldest, Johnny, no, Valerie, and I shook my head, yes, and she just collapsed.
But how did she know that meant that she had died?
Because I think she was getting things from like facials and stuff. I looked at Richard and I said, you tell her, and he shook his head, no, and then she knew it was bad. I was the only guy in the house at the time. I love to cook today, and the reason is my mother worked at a mill, and I wanted something I could do to help her. I'll make something. Probably wasn't very good back then, but it was her coming home to a meal on the table.
Categorize modern teaching as a profession in one word now.
Failure. So when I left in '91 to come help my dad, I still needed a job. Went into the S&ED classroom. It was the only teaching job I could get at that time, and was more successful than the previous 5 teachers had been in there, because I didn't go in there with this mindset, well, we got to assuage little Sammy or Johnny here and kiss their rear end and make their parents happy. I taught them the way I was taught. As I walk in the room, he's standing, you're the motherfucker that beat my kid's ass yesterday? The principal says nothing. The principal, and I went, excuse me? He said it again. I went, like waiting for John to get it. Who's now the superintendent at Beaver, Pennsylvania. Looked back at the guy, and the guy says, I said, let me ask you a question. Did you take your kid to the hospital last night? He goes, no. I said, you still have his teeth? He goes, yeah. And I said, no broken bones? He goes, no. I said, then I didn't fucking touch your kid, John. And I walk out.
At a certain point, you enter a management training program for Target stores?
Yes.
This has become a punchline for people that don't like you.
Yeah. We had just 2 days earlier bought a $500,000 house in Florida, co-signed on it. She come out of, we're done with the TV tapings, we're at the Doubletree meeting, and we're coming outside to go get something to eat. Excuse me and a couple guys, and my phone rings, I answer it, and she says, crying, I don't know who you are anymore, I want a divorce. Click. I'm like, okay, what's the punchline? At the end of the day, at the end of a career, you have to ultimately be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I see the person in there, do I like that guy or not? I feel very comfortable with the guy that I see.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say at the pearly gates as you arrive?
I don't like Ric Flair either.